having a live to talk to Jennifer, Jennifer Gomez, who should be joining us soon. I just sent her an invite to join the chat. And today we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking about her experience as a college student in George Washington University. She is finishing up her sophomore year there, so I'm really, really excited to talk to her. I did work with her just, before she even got into college, so I've known her for a little bit. And she's an awesome person, so she was okay with sharing her experience with you guys. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear from her. Hi, Jennifer!
Hi! Okay. So my name is Jennifer. I'm from New York.
Okay.
I'm from New York, from Queens. I was born in Peru. I came to the United States when I was 7. Currently, I attend the George Washington University. I am a sophomore.
If you could go back in time and put yourself back as a senior in high school,
Ooh,
just tell me a little bit about why did you apply to George Washington?
So I don't know if you remember, Cielo, but I actually did not want to apply to GW. I know it was the university that you recommended, and I was kind of like, well, it's in DC, so obviously it's very political, and I am not at all political, so
Yeah.
I don't want to go. And somehow I think it was towards the end of I guess like nearing to in December when like all the applications closed, where you actually brought it up again, and I had already done all the supplements. I already had my personal statement like finished, and so you were just like, you don't even have to pay for it, so might as well apply. And so I applied. Little did I know that I was gonna end up coming to this university.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had no information about this university. I didn't even Google them. I just kind of just applied. I just applied.
Screw it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so then let's go a little bit fast forward into when you got your acceptance letters. So where did you get into that you remember, or that you were kind of like thinking about going?
I guess I got into Stony Brook. I think I got waitlisted at NYU. I remember that because I kind of wanted to hold off for that. I believe I got into Baruch. I got into a couple of other CUNYs because I think I applied to most of them. And I got into like the community colleges, I believe, like Queens Community.
Yeah, I made you apply to 6 CUNYs, right? I told you to apply 6 CUNYs, so you did all that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so I think, was it that you were deciding between Stony Brook and George Washington at the end, or what were you deciding between? Like, what were your 2 choices?
I think it might have been between Stony Brook and GW. Yeah, I think it might have been between those 2, from what I can remember. And it turned out that I got accepted to GW before I got my financial aid like packet. So I got that pretty late, and by the time that like I had received my financial aid packet, I kind of made up my mind that I was gonna stay at CUNY because, well, at that point, like my status in the United States was really kind of like up there, and I mean, like for personal reasons and like just to be safe, I wanted to be close to my family. So I kind of just made up my mind I was gonna go to I think it's Queens Community College, Queensboro.
Queens Community College or Queens College? Probably Queens College, the 4-year college, right? Not the 2-year one.
I think it was one of those. I don't know if it was the community or the 4-year one. But I know there was also some like financial restrictions involved because I know Stony Brook, I had to pay like a decent amount. Well, like a lot more than what I have to pay for GW. And so for like all those factors, I kind of wanted to stay home. And when my financial aid came in from GW, it actually turned out to be cheaper for me to attend this university than to attend a community college because I think it's like $6,000 or something. That's like in-state tuition.
Okay.
and like I paid a lot less here per year.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So, but the financial reasons were obviously a huge factor in
Mhm.
choosing GW. What other factors? Like, did you know anything about, at this point when you already had your
Mhm.
acceptance letter and all that? Did you know anything about the school, or was it just like how you visited campus? Did you do anything else that made you decide on GW?
um no, just like
Okay.
no, it was for me personally, it was purely just the financial aid that I got from the university
Mm-hmm.
that just made me commit. I always talked to my mom about wanting to go away for college. It was something that I always wanted to do.
Yeah. I know.
And
I think I remember you saying, I was like,
mhm.
why don't you go visit the campus? And you were like, well, I'm afraid that if I go, I'm not going to want to
Yeah,
go there anymore.
yeah, hmm,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was
Um,
it was it the distance? Like, were you scared that you were going to be like, oh my gosh, it's so far. I don't want to be away from my family. Was that it?
I think I don't think so. I think like looking back now to that point, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was like obviously I knew I was gonna have to move away. The idea of like moving all my stuff out of my house and then moving it to a dorm and coming to visit before I would have had to would have made it all the more real.
Okay.
And I guess I just wasn't ready for that. I didn't want to see what my life could have possibly been, and also because I mean, Sailor, you know that like a lot of my paperwork has always been up in the air, and so there hasn't really always been kind of like a definite like I'm gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a
Yeah.
lot of it was also like if I go, I'm gonna want to go, and if something happens or like whatever something last minute happens, I won't be able to go, and then so it'll be kind of like a letdown.
So I know that when you were applying, you were worried, right? So do you want to tell us, your status and all that? Go into, as much detail as you want to. Why
Mm-hmm.
were you concerned? What was your status? And what were those feelings like around the time when you were applying?
So at the time that I started applying, I had DACA status,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe like I first came into your office to talk about Posse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really wanted to go to I wanted to do Posse because I had talked to them and they had told me that my status didn't matter. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew with DACA status, you can't really get financial aid in terms of like FAFSA.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that was kind of like my only option to go away for college.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I mean, I've always wanted to go away for college. So when I got to the final round of Posse, but I didn't get to I didn't get matched with the university.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was a really big let down just because at that point I wasn't a permanent resident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know what I was going to do in terms of college. I like in my head, I always saw myself away at a campus, and when I didn't get matched with the university through Posse, it was kind of just like, well, I'm gonna stay home for college now, and it would have been fine. It just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't my dream.
Yeah, and I
Um,
remember. So, just for the guys, for anyone who doesn't know, Posse is a scholarship that you have to get, like, kind of recommended for, right? Someone
Nominated for
has to
yeah.
nominate you, right? Someone has to nominate you to receive the scholarship, and if you get matched with a school, it's like QuestBridge in that way that you get matched to a school, and if
Mm-hmm.
you get matched, you get full tuition paid, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't include room and board, I do believe, right? But it does include full tuition. So it was a great opportunity, and I remember prepping for interviews and stuff like that, and you made it really, really far, which was really great. But I know that, I don't know, I think I remember telling you, things happen for a reason or something like that, with
Yeah.
my cheesy quotations all the time. So okay, so tell me then, how DACA played into you choosing GW.
So by the time that I applied to GW, so my permanent residency came in right right as the deadline was approaching. So I think it was like December. It came in like a week
Yeah.
before. So I had
Mm-hmm.
to email every university. I had to get in contact with FAFSA, and it was just really messy because I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
no standard way to handle that. So I believe I reached out to GW. I'm not exactly sure what it was that they replied. I have a presidential scholarship and an alumni scholarship, as well as like I believe now they introduce a couple of like grants because they took away like uh, is it the Perkins or some grant? They took away something.
The Perkins, yeah, Perkins grant, yeah.
Yeah. So GW was really good, and like they replaced that with private help. And in that, GW also has a policy in where the tuition that you're admitted with, that's what you stay with for 5 years. So if I don't graduate in 4 years,
great.
Yeah, so if I don't graduate in 4 years, I have at least an extra year where I know my financial aid would at least stay relatively the same. And so that was really big in kind of like just logistics of it. And I know my mom was really worried about that because I mean, like she didn't go to college here, and I'm the first child, so she was just like, make sure you figure out how all of that works, and like basically the whole application was on me because she just didn't know how to work.
I know. Yeah. Okay, so what was the whole financial aid? Do you remember what it was then? Your whole financial aid for GW? Like, what do you have to pay? If you don't mind sharing that.
I don't remember the exact numbers. I know I can like probably give estimates. I know how much we paid. Yeah. I believe so. I'm paying a little bit more now this year because the way the university works is that the tuition is fixed for your 5 years. However, your housing rate changes based on where you're living. So you have an application time period where you apply for housing. You are priorities, I guess, or your options 1 to 13, and really whatever you get is what you get. Usually first year housings tend to be like a little bit cheaper, and I lived on the Verne, so it was kind of like a campus that we had to take a shuttle to, and so it was a little bit less than it would have been for me to live here at Foggy Bottom. And I mean, with that semester, I think we ended up paying like $1,000 per semester, so $2,000 for the whole year.
That's great.
Yeah, so it really wasn't that bad at all.
Yeah,
but I mean, like,
so what? Did you take out any loans, or was it work study, or?
Yeah, so I do have work study, and my family had originally planned, so we took out. My parents didn't want me to take out any loans, and something that I was really concerned about because I am involved in I used to be really involved in my parents' financial decision making and all that. Yeah. So I would know if they would say like they can commit to something, but they really couldn't commit to it. So I was just like, let's take out the loans, and you said you would be able to make the payments. So whenever you take the payments, just pay it off to the loans rather than paying it to the university. That way, I'm secured every year. So that's what we ended up doing. So I took out most of the loans that I was recommended or that like came in my financial aid packet, which I think like only add up to maybe like $3,000 or $4,000 per year. So it's not that much.
Okay. And are you paying that off every single year, or is that accumulating?
Yeah, so kind of like what I had planned for was that we would be paying it off little by little. But because of other things that came up in my family, we haven't been able to do that. So I think I really like that I made that call. Just because otherwise I don't know how we would have paid. I know somehow like my parents would have like come up with the money, but it would have been really stressful on them.
Right. Okay. And did you take out subsidized loans or unsubsidized loans? Do you remember? Or do you know? Subsidized? Yeah. That means like, do you know the difference?
One of them gains interest while you're an undergrad, right? And then the other one it's like 6 months after. Yeah. I believe I took out like 1,000. I think it's like 1,000 or like 1,400 per year. That's the one that accumulates interest during undergrad. Yeah. So I do remember like thinking about that though.
So is everything covered? Because I'm wondering for the seniors who might be watching this, like there's tuition and then there's room and board, right? What about meal plans? Because I know that you were concerned about that in terms of, I think you said something about like in your campus, you get to eat around, like the restaurants around it or something like that. So can you explain that? And is that covered by room and board, or how does it work?
So Yeah, so like I kind of mentioned before, tuition is fixed. So whatever the price is of tuition when you enter, that's what it stays for 5 years. I believe they still have that policy.
Okay.
And so that's fixed. However, your housing goes up or like changes based on your assignment. And with your assignment, so um, as a freshman, I didn't have access. Well, I had access to a kitchen, but there was one kitchen in the whole floor, so it
Okay.
wasn't counted like I had access to the kitchen.
Right. Right.
So my meal plan last year was about 2,400, I want to say, per semester. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a decent amount. However, it was enough to like get me through the semester. And like I said, we don't really have a dining hall. We have we have Chick-fil-A, we have pizza places, Chipotle and
Yeah.
stuff like that, that the university's partnered
Okay.
with, and so we can use
Okay.
our dining cash, which is loaded onto our, so we can just swipe it as a debit card and use it in the partnered restaurants. We also have a Whole Foods.
Okay. And have you?
Yeah.
Okay. And it works
So
there in Whole Foods?
yeah, so we have a Whole Foods. It works there. It's just obviously we have Whole Foods, we have Safeway. I live there, so when I it's a campus kind of like that you have to take a shuttle to. So the closest supermarket for me last year was Safeway, which is a little bit less expensive than Whole Foods is.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of my friends who want to make sure they have enough, and we call it here G World. So
Mm-hmm.
the ones that want to make sure they have enough G World for the semester, they sometimes go to Safeway, which is maybe like a 30-minute drive, depending on what time of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and again, do grocery shopping there, just so that they can have enough.
Right. So
Yeah.
you prefer to go shopping at the supermarket, right? Instead of going to Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and all these places. I'm
So
assuming.
so last year I did cook a lot more. This
Okay.
year I have been a lot busier. And again, like last year, it was taking me a lot to get used to the university. I
Yeah.
like the first
Let's talk
semester.
about that.
The first
Let's talk
semester.
about your first year
Oh,
before we run out of time technically, because I wanna know so first year I remember, so real quick, I remember you visiting me and being like, Cielo, can we talk, and all this stuff, and you're like, I think I'm gonna transfer, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I told you to stick it out, didn't I? I think I
did.
told you to stay and just see, and really, really, this, like, make sure you wanted to transfer out before you did. So tell me a little bit of why. First of all, why did you feel like you wanted to transfer out, and what made you stay?
Okay, so first semester was really bad. I did not like the food. I mean, like Queens, Corona to Foggy Bottom is a huge difference. The food that I was used to just was not, it's just not around. So I would just live off bars. And I lost a lot of weight and I started going to the gym. It was only until like the second, yeah. And so during winter break was when I went to talk to you, if I remember right. I just wasn't used to it. I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. There wasn't a lot of help in terms of like professors. It was really weird for me to try to build a connection to them or even go to their office hours. I didn't know how to approach them. I didn't really know how to participate in class because a lot of the students that are in the university have a very eloquent way of speaking that I don't think I have still. Yeah. And so,
well, someone just said Jen sounds OD professional. So
well, I think it's
yeah,
improved.
no, it
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, for me too, the same thing. So you weren't fitting in then. You weren't
yeah,
kind of finding your place, right?
yeah. It just felt like I was completely out of place. It didn't feel like I belonged. It didn't at all feel like it was my campus. It didn't feel like I could just like sit somewhere and like hang out. It was really weird, very weird feeling that I know you warned me kind of like about a PWI, how I was going to experience a lot of things, but I just thought I'm going to school to get an education and that'd be it.
Yeah.
But you really do need to have a community.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what made you want to stay? Like what changed that around? Did you meet new people
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, so towards the end of my first semester in freshman year, I met a couple of girls from my sorority now, and
Mhm,
so I knew them as hermanas. And one of them was actually from New Jersey, and a couple of them were from New York.
mhm.
And I could really, really relate to them. And they were kind of the first peoples that I could talk in Spanish with, and I could talk about like getting tacos and like all these things that I just missed from back home. Um,
Yeah.
and it was really weird because I mean, back home I had I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and like now that I found my community, I can have these conversations, which is it's great. But so back home I had two different friend groups, kind of like my going out friends and like having
Mhm,
fun, and then I had kind of like my studious friends that
mhm.
those two worlds just never really met.
Yeah.
And so when I found my friend group here, those two worlds met, and
Yeah.
I was able to have fun with the same friends that I was able to study with, and I was able to use
Mhm.
mentors as well as just like hanging out with me and getting food. So I think it was overall my sorority that made the whole thing turn around.
And so how did you find your sorority? Like what made you go into that world?
So they put on an event. It was called How to Take Over DC Latina Style. And so when I
Okay.
saw the flyer, I saw Latina, and I was like, whoa, okay. So I went. I went with my roommate. My roommate was Mexican. I'm still really close
Okay.
with my ex roommate now. But
Okay.
so we were both kind of longing for that. We went to just kind of check it out, and that's where we met them. That's where we met them. They invited us to hang out, and that's how we like started developing a friendship. And eventually, like I joined the sorority, and now I mean like it's such a big difference from what I felt that year to what I feel now, because I feel like now this
Yeah.
is my campus. I feel like I can have an impact on this community. I feel like I can just walk around freely.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's definitely a huge change, and
Yeah.
it's crazy what finding your
I
community
know.
can.
Yes. I remember your answer. You saying, "Hey, I'm going to study. I'm gonna, keep my
Mm-hmm.
head down in the books and it's not gonna matter because,
Yeah.
no one can put me down." And that's not necessarily the case. It's about fitting in and feeling like you said, like you can make a difference with the people around you. And I guess that's what you found. Now, I know that someone asked about real quick
Mm-hmm.
about choosing your major. So
Mm-hmm.
someone said, can you please touch on choosing a major and how important of a factor should the competitive nature of a school play in selecting a school? So I'm guessing that they're talking about like what's your major? How are you choosing it? And how do you know that you made the right choice by what you want to study and being at GW? Like how, yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if you remember, so I came in being like set as a bio major, pre-med. Um,
Yeah.
oh yeah. So that's how I came in.
You wanted to be a neurosurgeon, right? Because of Grey's
Yeah,
Anatomy.
yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I
Yes.
came. I also didn't know how to register for classes. So I like totally like, I didn't mess up, but I took kind of like what I had to take. But um, I had a couple of extra classes that just didn't really do anything for me, like
Mhm.
credit wise and requirement wise, just because I
Yeah.
didn't know how to fill it out.
Yep.
Um, so that's what I did first semester. Second semester, I took chemistry because I was like, well, I need to like get the
Mhm.
ball rolling on this bio degree. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I took chemistry. This is just something that like the students say at GW. The bio department and like the science department at GW, depending on who your professor is, that's basically what's gonna make it or break it for you. And I didn't
Right.
believe in that.
Right.
I didn't believe in that. I was just like,
Hmm.
well, again, I'm here to study and like, give me the assignments, I'll do them, and
Yeah.
that's that.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, that's not how it worked.
And that's for every
I,
school, by the way. for
Yeah.
everyone listening, that's every school, like professors can make or break. And that's what I actually include in the senior guide, Jennifer. I don't know if you ever read it, but that
Yeah, I
50
did.
tips that yeah. So
Yeah.
in there, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that, the professors can make or break classes. And it's really useful for you to, find out information about them before you sign up for their class.
Yeah.
Because if students say that they're an awful professor, then you might want to reconsider taking that class and just take another one and then later on with another professor. But yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so keep on
Yeah.
going.
So yeah, I mean, I again, I was in that mentality where I was just like, I'm here to take classes. A professor's not gonna break it or make it for me.
Yeah.
I went into the only class that was open because again, I was very lost for registration.
Mhm.
And I actually took it with the worst professor on Rate My Professor, according to Rate My Professor. And
Yeah.
one of the comments said, "Do not take her; she will kill your GPA." And I ignored it. Yeah, I ignored it, and I was just
Right.
like, "No, it's not gonna be me." I took it, and I actually ended up withdrawing from that class, and that was it for my like bio career, whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. And so then I realized, yeah, that's not for me. I stayed over the summer. I actually through the hermanas that I had met, and at this point, this was the end of second semester, so I had already joined my sorority.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned before, like a lot of them here, so they served as mentors, and
Okay.
so they told me about Summer Academy, which is a program here at GW that is, I believe it's like for seniors who are working with the retention office because they're not going to graduate in 4 years. And
Okay.
so I was, one of them was really close with the person that ran it. And so she was kind of able to give me tips on how to talk to him and what I should say so that he would kind of like allow me that money, basically, that scholarship for the summer.
Yeah.
So I was able to stay for the summer basically for free.
Okay.
They paid for almost all of my things. I took 2 classes for the summer. I took a writing course because it was one of my requirements. Besides,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whatever degree I did or whatever major I decided to pursue. And then I took an intro to politics class because, well, I was at GW and politics was starting to grow on me.
Yeah.
And it was somewhere in between where I learned about public health
Okay.
and how GW has one of the best programs of public
Mm-hmm.
health. And so I
Yep.
looked a little bit into it, and I'm majoring in public health now. Like I took an intro to so first semester of my sophomore year. And I mean, like my only, I guess, advice would be don't freak out if you're a freshman and don't know what your major is or are changing. Obviously, it's great to already be set before you start, but changing is not, it's not the worst thing. And if you work your credits right, you can make it work. Like I'm on set to graduate on time. Yeah. I mean, I'm a public health major and I'm a psychology minor.
Okay. I also remember you mentioning that you wanted to triple major at some point. I think
Yeah.
last
Mm-hmm.
you were like, let's do a
Yeah.
triple major. And I think I told you not to do it. But it's great that you have a minor. So going back to that question that someone asked about choosing where to go depending on your major, if you weren't into politics before choosing GW, you're thinking about being a neurosurgeon and the sciences. So before you decided, committed to GW, did you look into the programs, like the science programs that GW had? And so, were you convinced that, okay, if I do want to be a neurosurgeon, like I can go ahead and do it from the school, or how did you go about that?
Yeah. So I believe something that I like saw when I was looking at that was that GW has like a 5-year, I think it's like a 5-year dual degree thing where you're an undergrad for 4 years, and then for that extra, and while you're in undergrad, you can take classes that are like for grad school or something like that. And so it kind of like gives you like, it gets the ball rolling on your master's degree. And once you're done with that, I believe like you get automatically admitted to the medical school, to GW's medical school or something sort of like that.
Okay.
And so I know something the counselor from my high school had told me was that you just need to get into university and then you can apply for programs. You can transfer and you can do all these things. And
Right.
so that was my plan.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
think
The other
that,
the other thing is that to become a neurosurgeon, for example, or any profession in the medical field, you have to do the requirements within the four
yeah,
years of getting your bachelor's. So even if you want to be a doctor, but you, let's say, go to a humanities college, right? You can still get your requirements and you can still do your sciences and your maths and have
yeah,
everything done and then apply to med school, right?
mhm,
Because applying to med school in this case, right, because you were into the sciences or into the medical profession, all it requires is that you have the requirements and then they take the
yeah,
MCAT and
yeah,
then get accepted into med school, right? So you can technically be an English major if you wanted, as long
mhm,
as you took the sciences and
yeah.
math requirements. All right, well, cool. I know that Jennifer, you probably have to go in about 5 minutes. So is there anything else, Jennifer, that you want to tell seniors that you've learned, or anything, any what would you call wisdom that you can share with the seniors who are making their decisions right now? You know that May 1st is when they have to commit to a college, so any words
Um,
of wisdom?
I would say,
Be honest,
oh
be
God.
raw and blunt like I was with you.
Okay. Personally, I think the financial aspect is a really big part of making the decision, and I would not underlook that. I know I have friends that kind of like just pushed it aside and was like, "This is my dream college, so this is where I'm going to go to." But their families and that individual now has a couple of jobs on top of being
Yeah.
a full time student, and that's a lot to take on being in
Hmm.
college. And I know being a senior in high school, you have it in your head that I'm just gonna study. I'm not gonna have a social life. I'm gonna work, and I'm just gonna go at it because I mean, that's how like I was raised. You know, you don't need a social life. You just need to study, and that's not at
Hmm.
all how it is. You need to be comfortable in your environment. In terms of, I guess coming between deciding a PWI or something that's a little bit more familiar, I would say
Can
don't
you can
be scared.
you can you tell them what's PWI?
PWI is a predominantly white institution.
Hmm.
So in terms of, I guess, like NGW is a PWI. So in terms of, I guess, like being discouraged from PWI, I would say don't let yourself fall into that mindset, um, because I guess something that I've just learned through my time here is that even though like there's times where we go through things where we don't feel as though we belong, and I believe Cielo, you told me about the imposter syndrome or like something like that.
Yeah, imposter
Yeah,
syndrome.
yeah, yeah. I still face that. It's kind of just like having a constant reminder, whether that's a friend, your parents, your brother, or anyone that motivates you and just um keeps you on the mindset that you're, even if you don't have like a Latinx community at your GW, you can build one. There has to be other Latinos around,
Yeah,
um, and it's never like if there's not one, you can always start one,
yeah,
and kind of just having that attitude of perseverance. I think
yeah,
that gets you through a lot. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. I mean, that really means a lot. I talk to students all the time, and they DM me and they ask me for advice, seniors as well as younger ones, and especially for seniors right now. I don't think I think the same as when you were a senior. They don't understand these very real things that I kind of talk to them about, which is, not getting into debt, not taking that on because financial circumstances, like having debt as soon as you graduate. I mean, you're so close to graduation, you're 2 years out, right? And if
Oh
you
my god.
graduate and then you have debt on top of that, it's tough, and if you have a few thousand, then fine, you work it off, but then we talking about 10,000, 20,000,
That's a lot.
30,000, 50, 60. It's like it becomes a lot, so you have to be very careful with your spending as well, going to the supermarket and making meals instead of going out to eat, and all these little things that they don't think about. And for any students who are minority students, Latinos and other minorities, it feels very, very weird to not fit into a school that you worked so hard to get into. And that's why I wanted you to share your story, because you really wanted to, I remember how badly you just didn't feel like you fit in, and then suddenly this year you're so happy and you're the president of your organization, and you're repping your school, and I'm so happy for you, because that's going to make your experience so much better.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing all of that. I hope everyone who watched got a lot out of it, and I said I'm going to post again for those who didn't make it. But yeah, Jennifer, I'll be in touch with you. I would love, since we both speak Spanish, maybe to do something in Spanish for the parent group on Facebook, but we'll talk about that. Okay, but thank you so much. I'll let you go to your meeting now.
Okay.
And have fun, and I'll talk to you. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for taking the time to do this, honestly. All right, Jennifer, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. I really, really appreciate everyone who showed up, and don't hesitate to ask any questions, because just like Jennifer, she was a student that I worked with 2 years ago, and there's so many changes that she's gone through. I would love to help you guys out before you make the really crazy decision to go to college for 4 years. I can't wait to see you when you're a sophomore in whatever college you choose, and I just want you to be happy there. So I'll talk to you guys soon. DM me if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later.